Hi there, I'm Justin Pritchard, and in this video, it's the Porsche of the luxury crossover scene. This is the new Cayenne S. That's Cayenne S, brought to you by the people who brought you the 911. After all, Cayenne is about the only luxury crossover created by a brand who otherwise really only makes sports cars. That's all because a while back, Porsche marketing discovered that many of their very loyal sports car customers also had a German luxury SUV in the garage, so they built one too. And now, 16 years and several generations later, this latest Cayenne arrives after Porsche has sold a ton of them. Like all Porsches, you can kit yours up from mild to wild. Starting in the 70s with 335 horsepower is the standard Cayenne. There's a 455 horsepower hybrid, and the Cayenne Turbo with a 541 horsepower V8 is on offer from $140 grand. On your screen, it's the $92 grand Cayenne S with the sweet twin turbo V6. It's a little one at 2.9 liters, but it loves to party with 435 horsepower ready to go. There's an 8-speed paddle shift transmission, all-wheel drive, multiple drive modes for instant access to whichever of Cayenne's split personalities you'd like, and big brakes peeking out from behind those big wheels wrapped in winters for our test drive. And it all rolls on a very high-tech suspension system. This is the sort of technology that can set off that spark in the brains of aspiring young car guys and car gals, and it's called adaptive air suspension, and it works under Cayenne's 4D chassis control umbrella. Basically, by controlling when and how much air is moved in and out of the shocks, the Cayenne's ride quality and ride height can be altered in just a moment and at the tap of a button, and it even self-levels to keep the body flat at all times, and that ties into the PASM, or Porsche Active Suspension Management System, which also reads and responds to the surface beneath and makes millisecond adjustments to optimize comfort or handling depending on the drive mode that you select. So in a second or two, you can lift this suspension up, slam it down, make it stiffer or softer, and all the while it works in the background to keep the body from bounding around, which of course makes you more comfortable and turns big bumps into little ones. The driveline is similarly adjustable along with almost everything else. Normal mode for all-purpose driving, sport mode for added response, faster reactions, and more sound from the engine. And from those drive mode presets, you can further tweak subsystem settings to taste, so Cayenne can be almost anything you want. The interior keenly targets a shopper who prefers something a little quieter looking. What it doesn't do, like many at this price point, is punch you in the face with glitzy chrome and over-the-top trimmings. Some shoppers like that, which is why the interior of, say, this new BMW X5 is sopping with luxury decor and easily sits amongst one of the most lavish I've ever visited. Look at this gear shifter, it's like a crystal Scotch decanter. But if that's not your style, you may like the Cayenne's more subdued cabin. It's not the initial impression that grabs your attention as much as sitting down and spending a moment examining the finer details. From a glance, it's quieter looking and minimal, less flashy and loud. The details are where it hits hardest, though the new steering wheel, instrument set, central command screen, and very high-tech center console also show a lot of effort spent on the things that the driver will use and see the most often. It's high-tech flair with a quietly understated atmosphere that's tidier and less showy. And if that's your bag of chips, you'll also want to check out the Volvo XC90, and for the same reason. Elsewhere, the motorized tailgate opens up on an otherwise pretty typical cargo hold. Rear seats are adult-friendly and split folding for more space, and I had no issue with head or legroom sitting in the back. And up front, there's that tall but not towering driving position that many crossover drivers love. Up here, my favorite of the big dollar infotainment systems. It has a huge screen, great graphics, responds immediately to your touch, and looks like it requires a PhD in computer science to operate, but actually it's no harder to use than a sofa. So, how's it drive? Well, just about however you like, but there are some things to know. The first is ride quality. Now, usually it demonstrates extra fine tuning and uses that suspension control magic to brilliantly smooth out the ride or jack up the handling or keep the body under steady, creamy smooth control. Thing is, the ride quality is still moderately sporty at all times, and nastier potholes and craters can punch right through the high-tech suspension comfort force field, so on rougher in-town roads, comfort does get knocked back a few pegs. Translation, the ride is always giving you a reminder, in some form or another, that you're in a performance machine. Ditto the engine. Even cruising gently, there's always just a touch of sound coming in from the engine room, a perpetual sample of the V6's howling soundtrack, and a reminder of what's waiting for you on the other end of the rev range. Sounds gorgeous, but if you're after a ghostly quiet power plant, this isn't the one. Brakes, and even more so the steering, are a little more quick and eager than the norm for a crossover, meaning there's a feel that's initially on the touchy and abrupt side, but, and like the engine and suspension, the calibration of the steering and brakes means that these two all-important elements of the feel of this machine feel the most in their element when you're driving it hard. And that's where the badge shines through. The engine works and sounds the best when it's spinning fast, and it goes like the wind, and the gears shift fast, and in sport mode the steering is like a go-kart, fast and heavy and encouraging you to play. And when you do, the suspension works a way to keep the Cayenne feeling flat and tidy, and the steering and the brakes and the engine and everything else just feel fantastic the harder you work them. Put simply, much of this machine's best stuff is strutted when you drive it with intent. It feels better the harder you drive it, and little you can do ever makes it feel like it's out of its comfort zone. And that is how they've brought the Porsche sports car experience into this crossover. Gripes? Well, aside from the ride on rougher roads, these heavily bolstered front seats and relatively tall step-in can make entry and exit a little tricky for some. This vinyl dashboard is fine, but I expected stitched leather at this price, and that price is considerable. This tester's options cost the same as a new Honda Accord, bumping the total MSRP to $120 grand, which can get you a much more powerful rocket ute if you're not set on the Porsche. But output alone is, of course, only part of the story, and you will want to make sure that you'll benefit from the authentic performance moves here, since that is a large part of what you're paying for. Those who relish the idea of a sports crossover that expertly uses high-tech and engineering to feel and move like a smaller and lighter machine, and one that's completely unfazed having the pants driven off of it, will find a very solid return on their investment. Family road trip, sporty backroads drive, relaxing day-long highway cruise, you're backed up very nicely for all of it. Plus, with its great new look, this new Cayenne will nicely match with the new 911 if you'll be adding one of those to your garage too. Do your homework, kids. Thanks for watching.